Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're checking out the Acebeam Pokelit. This is the copper version, of course, and you can get this on Amazon for about $40. Now, there's an aluminum version as well that goes down to $30, and for some reason on Amazon right now, the dark green version is only $20. All three have a coupon that you can apply. No coupon code necessary. It's just a check mark, so make sure to check that box. And so that gets the dark green version all the way down to 18 if you're into the dark green or don't care about the finish. I think that's a really killer deal for this light. Now, I didn't get to choose the finish on mine because this came in a going gear, but if I did, I probably would have chosen the copper anyway because I like copper and brass and have a couple brass flashlights, but no copper yet, and so would have probably chose this one anyway. So happy this is what ended up coming in the box. Now, this is based on a AA platform. It comes with a pre-installed USB-C rechargeable 14500, but you can swap in AA's while you're recharging or permanently if you prefer AA for whatever reason. But it does come with that 14500, and that really makes this a direct competitor to the Olight i5R, which comes with the same battery, and in a lot of ways they're very similar, and in other ways I think the Pokelit ends up coming out ahead. And so really interesting alternative if you're looking for something other than Olight, and really happy with this light so far. Now, as far as the LED goes in here, I'm not a flashlight guy, so to speak. I like flashlights, but not super into LEDs, so this means nothing to me, but if you are, you may know what that means. And so it has a Nichia 519A 5000K CR190 LED in here. And so, like I said, that doesn't really mean anything to me, but it does output a nice neutral white light. And so some people prefer an amber light, some people prefer that clear white, and for me, I don't actually have a major preference. I like both. With this copper, it might have been cool to see that more amber tint to it. I think amber just goes a little bit better with copper, but really don't have a preference for myself when it comes to the tint of the light. Now, super simple operation on this one, just a tail switch operator. Now that tail switch is sticking out, it's not balanced, so you can't tail stand this. Also no magnetic tail switch, which might be a downside for some, but I think it does make sense and pretty easy to operate overall. Now, we end up with three modes. We have a 5 lumen low mode, and in this lighting, it's pretty hard to see in a dark environment. That's gonna get you, if you're just looking close to you, trying to find something you dropped or keyholes, that sort of thing, this is plenty. And that lasts for 58 hours. If we move over to the next mode, which you can do by just double clicking, we jump all the way up to 100 lumens. And for me, this is kind of that sweet spot. Most occasions, you're not gonna need to go above this, and that lasts for 5.5 hours, so that's really decent runtime for that. Now, the high mode does jump all the way up to 500 lumens, super bright. Only downside being that it does end up stepping down to 190 lumens after 45 seconds. And so that 190 lumens still is brighter than the 100, obviously, and you can tell the difference, but not significantly so. And that does last for 2 hours and 20 minutes, so the decent runtime on that. But I do wish you had a little bit longer time in the 500 lumen mode than that 45 seconds. Overall, not bad though. And mention this being kind of a direct competitor to that Olight 5R. So, excuse me, getting these next to each other, you can see they have very similar frame, similar pocket clips, similar build overall. The i5R is a hair longer, but not significantly so, maybe a millimeter longer, but otherwise very comparable. Now, when it comes to output, the top on the Acebeam I mentioned being 500 lumens, the top on the i5R is only 350, and so we can cycle into those, and it is a decent bit brighter than the i5R. You can see different shades of light there as well, but a decent bit brighter than the i5R, and so pretty impressive that they were able to get it out of the same battery platform. I think both have proprietary 14500 batteries, although you can put in your own as well, but they both use their own custom 14500s, but they're able to get 150 more lumens out of this one, and so also a further throw distance. I think the throw on the 500 lumen for the Acebeam is 80 meters, and the throw on the 350 lumen for the i5R is only 64 meters. So definitely impressive on that similar platform. We also have an additional mode, so we have low, medium, high, so a little bit more options. I do think the i5R, that 350 lumens, is a little bit brighter than I need, but you only really need the two modes for me, but still do prefer this Pokelit over the i5R. Now, one other thing, or two other things to note with the copper, obviously the first one being that it does patina, and you can see a little bit different levels of patina because I've had this one a lot longer than the knife up here, which is just there because I think they look good together, but very different levels of patina. I also tried to jumpstart this one by misting it with water overnight and just seeing what that looked like. Didn't like how it left the water drop look to it, so I ended up just letting it patina naturally. Since then, starting to get some very light like purples in certain spots, and it does seem to patina a little bit darker at the top here where the heat is, and so it's getting a little bit more purple here than it is on the rest of the body. So I think that's pretty cool. As far as the dimensions on this one go, we're looking at 3.73 inches long and 0.71 inches in diameter. Now the copper does weigh more than the aluminum. 3.33 ounces is what I weighed it at with the battery installed, and the aluminum is listed at 1.92 ounces with the battery installed. So you get about an ounce and a half heavier, which is significant, but it's still not a heavy light by any means, but definitely feels a little bit weighty. You have the two-way pocket clip, again, same exact thing as the i5R there. Obviously we have different milling patterns, but very, very similar platforms here. And so that two-way pocket clip, now this is bordering on a little bit heavy for the hat, so anything heavier than this I probably wouldn't really need a two-way pocket clip, but it's still at that size where I think it's somewhat reasonable. IP868 water and dust proof rating, which I believe is the same as the i5R. That means that you can submerge it up to about 2 meters and maintain that waterproofing. And rated for drops up to 1 meter. I think I saw some that said 1 meter, some that said 1.5 meters, so don't know exactly. I would say 1 meter is probably a safe bet though. And so really, really excellent light. I like a lot of things about it. I like the easy operation. Now there is a momentary on. I find it a little bit hard, there we go, to cycle through. A lot of the times when I'm trying to do the momentary on, I end up just pushing the button. And so there's not that much of a difference between the two. Now I don't find this going on in my pocket really. The button is pretty stout and stiff, and so it takes a decent bit of pressure to turn it on, and there's a nice tactile click to it that you can hear when it happens, and so unlikely to accidentally click it, and when you do you probably will hear it, but hasn't been a real problem for me. So really big fan of this light. Now all of my Acebeams that I have in my collection have come from Going Gear, and I actually like all 4 of them, and so I think this is a brand I need to be a little bit more intentional about tracking down because I'm a fan of what they're doing. I think the big difference here between this and Olight is Olight's marketing is obviously a significant bit better, but this one is the better flashlight overall. And so Olight sends out flashlights to influencers. They have their monthly sales and their huge Facebook group, and so they do a really good job of staying in front of you. That monthly sale really reminds you, oh, let me check out what they're offering, where you don't get that with Acebeam, but I do think they're putting out some cool stuff. Now Olight does a lot of limited editions. They don't do a lot of that, but they do have a couple limited editions that come and go. So even this one has like a weird Timascus version of it that's like $70, and so they do a little bit of that, not as much as Olight, but I think some of their models are really cool. So I'm just going to quickly show all of my Acebeams so you can see a little bit of the variation that they have to offer. So this is a Pokelit, obviously pretty similar to that i5R, but the rest, like this one, is their Rider RX, really doesn't have anything comparable to it. This is also based on the AA platform, also tail switch operated, that sticks out a little bit. The cool thing about this one is you can tail stand that by using this bolt action clip, and so you can turn it on and then bolt action clip it and push it out, and you can see that switch goes out of the way. I'm going to turn this off so I don't blind you by shining in the camera, but now that that tail switch is out of the way, it will tail stand, and so I think that's a really cool feature. Also how you access that battery, so just something a little bit different and fun. Also makes it a little bit fidgety because you have that fidgety pocket clip, and so I think that's pretty cool. Next one is the Acebeam E70, really large flashlight. Love, same thing on the other one, this one's titanium, but that blue core, which we saw in the Rider RX as well, I think is a really cool looking feature. This one also has a ton of spots for like tritium inserts around it. Really phallic looking pocket clip, but otherwise pretty cool. You can see even the text on here has that blue coat to it, and then the hardware is also blue. Nice tactile or tactical bezel here for self-defense if you need it for that. Not really something I look for in flashlights, but it's there if you want it. And so That one's cool. Then most recently we got this Defender P17, largest flashlight in my collection really, besides just a regular mag light. And this one also has a little bit of a tactical bezel, not as aggressive as the other one. 2-switch operation, which I think is pretty cool. You have your main one that turns it on and then the side one to cycle through the different modes. And the other one is also just that immediate, if you need the strobe effect, which I think is pretty cool. You can get there really quickly without having to like triple click, which is what you have to do for some flashlights, or hold it for 3 seconds. And so really quick access to the strobe mode, which is cool. Now I'm not going to do it because I try to avoid it in videos that everyone knows what strobe looks like and don't want to have to do like the seizure warning and all of that. So just trying to avoid showing strobe overall. But some really great offerings. I think they're doing some cool things, and so definitely worth checking out if you're looking to see what's out there besides Olight. I think this is a really excellent option, and a lot of times the comparable lights do seem to come out ahead, and so definitely worth looking into. But would love to hear your thoughts on this light down in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, subscribing, hitting the notification button. I'll help out the channel a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.